The Doomsday portfolio.
The Doomsday portfolio.
Okay, go ahead.
My portfolio, it consists of one asset. It's gold.
Just gold.
Gold.
Just
Let me give you my thesis. It's going to sound so different from what you said earlier.
Whoa, there went gold.
Doomsday.
Gold.
The U.S. currency is a fiat currency that's getting overprinted, but you can't short the dollar because you'll
buy gold.
So you buy gold.
And that's worked as a it's
So
gold
far
has
this
worked
year,
really well.
it's worked pretty
so
well.
I'll give you the
Okay.
counter. Not that gold hasn't worked, because
Sure.
it has. Congratulations.
Sure.
But I'll just give you the counter argument to the Doomsday thesis.
Sure.
The people who have the Doomsday thesis have been making the same argument for 40 years.
Yes.
Okay. That's a long time to make an argument that hasn't
100%.
worked. Okay. Call me crazy.
This is our year.
But this is our year. You're 41. But the argument is basically deficits too big, too much printing of currency. It's been debased. Buy gold. Okay. Now, buy gold has worked because people accept that argument.
Sure.
But what most people never ask themselves is, okay, so why hasn't the Doomsday scenario happened?
Very fair question.
It's a fair question.
And I
like
certainly
if you're
am
making
not-
an argument for 40 years
Yeah.
and it hasn't happened, but all the data that you said is going to cause the Doomsday happened, and yet it hasn't happened, the obvious question you should ask yourself is, why hasn't it happened? So I'm going to answer your question.
I want to say I'm not 40.
So
That's like, I can't even do it that long. But I know that people have been guns and bullets and beans in their
Right.
bunker. But yeah.
I've been pushed a little more in this direction lately. And the thing that made me kind of come over the edge on it was a book that we recently read by Ray Dalio called How Countries
Yes,
Go Broke.
Ray Dalio is thinking cats and dogs are going to lie down together any moment. Any moment it's going to happen. And he's been making that argument only for 20 years.
Yeah, only 20.
But to give, I don't agree with this guy on everything, but to give credit to his argument, I think it's indicative of something that does take a long amount of time. And we're at a stage where our country and so many other countries are so
So my
overleveraged.
pushback.
Yeah.
Okay. Why hasn't it happened? Look, most people don't understand anything about how the financial system of the world works. It's just like, it's very esoteric. I mean, I do. It's what I do for a living. So the reason why the dollar is still the reserve currency of the world is not just that we're the biggest economy in the world. It's that the entire financial system of planet Earth functions on treasuries. So for example, banks all over the world lend to one another overnight in what's called the repo market. This is like a multi-trillion-dollar market. It all functions on treasuries, short-term treasuries. If you're a sovereign wealth fund, you're in Norway, and you need to park, I don't know, $500 billion for 5 years. You're going to buy 5-year U.S. treasuries because there's no alternative. There is no alternative currently to treasuries. And as long as there is no alternative to treasuries, we will remain the reserve currency of the world. And so all the deficit problems that people are worried about, I think are academic. Now, if an alternative ever shows up, like people think Bitcoin is going to be it, or maybe it's China bonds or something I don't even know, and there's a real alternative to treasuries, then all the arguments about the deficit and the debasement of the dollar are much more important. But until then, I think it's academic.
To even slightly push back, I would just say
You can push back hard.
There's no, I think what you're saying makes total sense, and I definitely don't want to be flash forward 40 years and I'm making the same argument, and I don't want to do that. But I want to say I think there's a credible case to say that it's not over
There it
anymore,
is.
that gold is starting. No currency can fill it in. I totally understand that. We're the cleanest dirty shirt. No one can go to the RMB or the euro or the yen. However, country like China, country like Russia, all these countries have started to on net. Their central banks are owning more gold and less treasuries. Their percentage of treasuries is either held flat or down.
Right.
And I think the idea would be you would trade with another country and then settle the difference in gold. Whatever.
We're going to go back to the gold standard?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
Maybe not. But that's what the direction of travel might be.
I don't
right?
think that's right.
All right, that's fair.
I mean, put it this way. The price of the risk that you're talking about is the 10-year treasury yield. If it was like a real problem,
But is
put it
that
this way.
not-
Don't tell me what you're saying. Tell me what you're doing.
Okay.
Okay? Don't tell me that you're panicked about the deficit. Put your money where your mouth is. Sell your 10-year treasuries and drive the yield up to 6-7%.
You want to be a bond vigilante?
Then I take you seriously.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're just pontificating.
Yeah.
I mean, where's the 10-year treasury yield now? 4.1. It's not done anything in 3 years.
Sure.
So the alarm bells of this actually happening are just not going off.
They're not going off.
Yeah.
So as we've done a lot of research into the U.S. deficit. You just addressed this, and I wanted to ask you about it. And you're saying it's academic. I'm just wondering, how do you? I mean, is there a point at which we're 36 trillion in debt now, and whatever a trillion goes to interest every year in our budget? At some point, even if we continue to stay as the reserve currency, does that become a problem?
Sure. I mean, but I don't know where that is. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know.
Right. And you don't want to waste your life trying to guess it. You basically,
I don't want to be Pete Peterson.
Right. Who's Peterson?
Pete Peterson was the guy who started this argument 40 years ago. Okay. He's dead.
And you're alive. That's 1-0 score.
1-0, that's a win.
Yeah.
You touched on something a little bit before this, like that the financial industry on the whole is difficult to understand. It's difficult to engage and understand with the system that we all still participate or are a part of in some way.
Right.
Are there any misconceptions that are so pervasive that bother you that you wish you could have everybody understand? Like any big points of financial literacy that if you could just snap your fingers and everybody could just know, you would want.
If everybody could know that lesson I gave you guys about how banks work, they'd feel a lot more comfortable about banks right now. I mean, the funny thing about bank leverage, did you ever see the movie? I mean, of course, I've seen this movie. It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart, the Christmas movie. Yeah. So that scene where he's running a building and loan, which is a prototype of savings and loans. It's like a little bank that makes home loans.
Okay.
And there's a run on the bank. That's what you see in that scene. Everybody shows up and they want their money.
Big crowd, yeah.
The point about that scene, which people don't understand, is we want banks to be levered. Here's why. Back to that formula of return on equity equals return on assets times leverage. Let's say the average, a 1% return on assets is not bad for a bank.
Because they have a lot of assets.
Because that return, just trust me, is not bad.
Okay.
It's not great, it's not bad.
Sure.
So if you're levered 10 times, you get a 10% return on equity. That's not terrible. So let's say the regulators come in and say, well, that's too much. We don't want banks to be levered more than 3-1. Now what happens is you still have the same 1% return on assets, but your leverage is only 3-1. Your return on equity is 3%. Well, that's inadequate. So the only way for a bank then to make a lot more money, to generate sufficient return, is to charge a hell of a lot more in interest.
I see.
You follow?
Yeah.
So the point is, we want banks to be levered because by generating, let's say, a 1% return on assets, and they're lending, let's say, at 6 or 7%, which let's just say, for sake of argument, is fine, they generate an adequate return. If we don't allow them to be levered like that, all of a sudden, what they're going to charge in interest is so much higher so they can generate adequate returns. So the formula about banks is really, it has to be a levered business model, because if it's not levered enough, it becomes prohibitive for the entire economy. So the message is, you want banks to be levered, but you don't want them to be too levered because it's dangerous.
It's a balance.
It's like little bear's porridge. What's just right?
Just right. Yeah, I've never thought about that. Like if you cap it too low, the access to lending for everybody, whether it be
they'd have to charge so much more on a home loan. They have to charge double, triple to generate an adequate return. But who could afford it?
Right. And then no one can buy cars, no one can build houses.
I mean, the point about banks is, what do? They recycle money, which are your deposits. That's the leverage. They take your money that you put in the bank and they lend it out.
Yeah.
We want them to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What we don't want is for them to have too much leverage, so that if they make mistakes and then the losses are too high, they blow up.
Or too concentrated in one.
Or too concentrated in one
okay.
area.
Yeah, makes sense.
I'm curious. Part of why I've enjoyed this conversation so much